Welcome to this edition of the Absolute Sounds Recordings of the Month. This is where we survey our equipment reviewers to see what they're listening to in the search for interesting music that is well recorded. Just a brief interruption, esteemed viewers. If you enjoy our videos, you might also like our other work for audiophiles and music lovers. Written equipment reviews, editor's choice ratings, product news, and music reviews. Get the latest each week with a free subscription to our email newsletters. A link is in the description. From Stephen Stone, we have Thelonious Monk, Alone in San Francisco, on Craft Recordings, available on Qobuz in FLAC 24-bit 192K. For many years, Stephen says he never really got Thelonious Monk. It took this album to make him understand what makes Monk tick, musically speaking. The reason is simple. When he plays in an ensemble, it's hard to identify what is the essence of his style, since he had a remarkable ability to meld with the other musicians in his groups. Alone, Monk's musical ideas are far more obvious, not only his melodic modifications, but also his unique sense of musical time. As a solo artist, Monk abandoned conventional musical timekeeping, and as the mood struck him, luxuriated in the decay of a chord or a phrase. While you may find it an odd comparison, I find Monk's phrasing similar to the speech patterns of Henry Close, one of the founders of KLH and Advent, who would speed up his verbiage while explaining a technical detail that was too obvious for him to dwell on. Monk's sudden arpeggios are like Claus's and so forth and so on, while moving on to more interesting subjects. The sound here is good enough that it never distracts from the music. Does the piano sound like a Bosendorfer? Nope, but it does sound in tune with no dead spots. You can, if you're into such things, hear Monk's exclamations and exhalations as he plays, which reminds me of Glenn Gould's sub-musical commentaries. If you never really have been into Monk's music, this release is a great place to start. Then, from Andrew Quint, we have Resonance, Benjamin Hochman piano. This is on Avi Records, available on Qobuz in 24-bit 96K. Resonance programs two of Beethoven's last three piano sonatas, number 30 in E major and number 31 in A-flat major, with music written long before and long after these sublime works were created. The album recognizes the centrality of Beethoven to the long tradition of Western classical music by including works by two Renaissance composers, Jacquin des Prez and John Dowland, as well as the living English composer George Benjamin, his Shadow Lines, 6 canonic preludes for piano, written in 2001. Hochman's performances of the Beethoven sonatas are disciplined and technically assured, but acknowledge their adventuresome and almost improvisatory aspects. Regarding the Benjamin pieces, the liner notes describe a balance of intellect and emotion that definitely resonates, to refer to the album title with Beethoven's music. The 2024 recording from a Berlin studio manages to be both relaxed and immediate, with plenty of dynamic shading. Then, from Jason Methvessel, we have Latvian Radio Big Band on an album entitled Big Band Minimalism, if there is such a thing. It's on Mama Records and available on Qobuz in 16-bit 44.1K. In this album, the time-honored Latvian Radio Big Band presents a collection of works from Swedish jazz composer Mats Holmqvist. Now, when we think of big bands, minimalism isn't the first thing that springs to mind. However, used here, minimalism represents a specific style of musical composition like that pioneered by composers Steve Reich. Applying the principles set forth in minimalism, that of repetitious musical phrases, and layering the many performers at one's disposal when composing for big bands, renders an impeccably dynamic and engaging presentation of music. This gave me a feeling of new life, a breathing in and out as the music grew and once again settled. After listening to this album, Jason felt reinvigorated, like he could once again grab the bull by the horns. Andrew Quint also suggests Okfebelo, I think I've got that right, Songs in Flight. It's on Cedille Records, and it's available on Qobuz in 24-bit 96K. Sean E. Okfebelo is a Nigerian-American composer in his mid-40s with numerous awards, grants, and commissions. Songs in Flight is a 45-minute song cycle that takes as its inspiration the Freedom on the Move database, a Cornell University-based collection of more than 30,000 advertisements offering rewards for the return of runaway slaves, originally published in the 18th and 19th centuries. The texts include contributions from several contemporary poets, as well as some actual ads. Needless to say, the effect is pretty devastating, a painful reminder of a shameful part of American history. The music includes occasional inflections of jazz and spiritual superimposed on Akpebelo's distinctive contemporary classical idiom. The vocal duties are shared by several singers, most notably Will Liverman and Rhiannon Giddens. The evocative piano part is effectively played by Paul Sanchez. Typical for the Chicago-based Cedille recording label, the sound is clear with highly characteristic vocal sonorities. Then, in contrast, for fun and sheer impressiveness, I suggest Martzen, the single track called Toccata on Sony Masterworks, available on Qobuz in 24-bit 48K. I admit to being a fan of classical reinterpretation flavored by jazz or electronica, sometimes called third stream or sometimes called neoclassical. We don't really have the right terminology for this. This track is a Bach transcription, but it sounds unlike what I was used to and what you may be accustomed to. Polish guitarist Marcin Petzel... My Polish, it doesn't exist. Polish guitarist Marcin Paterzalek plays toccata on solo guitar, but not the solo guitar of 18th century salons. This feels flamenco-inflected, and he includes a percussion element. Given that he's playing 1,000 notes per second, I'm not quite sure how he does it, but word on the street is that this recording was made in a single pass, although Martin normally adds some electronic flourishes separately. The pyrotechnics really don't matter. This is just wonderful music, wonderfully played, and slightly updated for modern ears. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Recordings of the Month. If you have, please check for future editions, and also we encourage you to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which has more music reviews in it, as well as coverage of audio equipment. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.